Okay, here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is. I hope it's good to be where you are because it is certainly good to be here. My name is Baltimore Fats and this is Mud City. Yeah. Okay. I hope everybody's doing well today. And is ready to have a little fun. I'm ready to have some fun because this is the story of last Thursday when Mary came to pick me up and we went fort hunting. And so I believe it all started with this page. Unfortunately, Mary cannot remember the name of the book she took a screenshot of this from, but it's in the Library of Congress somewhere, and we will find it again. But it all starts with this line here. It says, adjoining on a ridge overlooking a wide extent of country, an extensive fortification was reared, the lines of which may still be traced. This was Fort Number 1, and these earthworks, regularly numbered, encircled Baltimore. Many of them were never used at all, and a number of the smaller ones within what has now become an inhabited part of the city have since disappeared. Fort Number 4 stood at the intersection of Gilmore Street and the Liberty Road, and Number 5 is now distinguished as the little eminence just within the Madison Avenue gate of Druid Hill Park. These two forts were garrisoned after the raid of 1864. No guns were ever mounted in Number 5, although several pieces of heavy ordnance were sent out, the company of the Veteran Reserve Corps occupying it only a few weeks. Fort Number 7 was the extensive work near Mount Royal Reservoir and was garrisoned for a few days also in July 1864. Okay, so I'm not going to really get into. We are going to go visit Druid Hill and see what remains of Fort Number 5 someday soon, I hope. But Mary felt that she had found the remains of Fort Number 4. And she made a post in one of her blogs. Goodness. She made a post in one of her blogs at Baltimore Mudflutter. She has a Search for Truth page. And she had a picture of a couple of forts. Whoops. And this was one of them. All right, and so I was excited. I was like, oh my God, this is where we're going to go try to find the Star Fort. Okay, Fort Number 4 and this are not the same, right? This is an actual, there's a historical record for this fort, right? Obviously, there's a picture of it, but it was Fort Marshall, right, in Baltimore. And this is a pencil drawing or a woodcut or whatever technique was used from 1861. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this because I made an interesting connection while looking this up. And also we're going to go see if we did in fact find the remains of Fort Number 4 or perhaps some of the other, because again, it's very telling that in that page, these earthworks regularly numbered encircled Baltimore, and many of them were never used. How many were there? I mean, they name up to 7 here, although 6 is conspicuously absent and so forth. But, I think you get the point there. How many could there be? And so, like I said, Mary, we went on a hunt for Fort Number 4, and I'll show you what we found. But first, I wanted to find out what I could about this Star Fort, right? Because there's, it doesn't exist today, this fort. And when you look at this picture, and especially looking at the reading that paragraph, there was a wide, expanse of land around, right? And now you can see this is the harbor down here. So the city is off here, and you look at what's going on in this picture, right? And let's focus on the picture a little bit. I'm going to start down here, actually. What is going on with all of these little things, right? And I'll leave it that way for some clarity because it's not the best file, I guess. Right? There are these little booths that look to be made of metal and have curtains, right? And they have antenna, right? And they are all around, and they're sentried. There's a sentry at every one. which I think is interesting. And you can even, that looks like one on the outside of the fort. There's a couple on the earthwork, right? There's one up here, right? There's one here inside the fort. But what are those things, right? And then you kind of go away and you see that might be one there. And then you look off in the city, lots of tower activity happening in the city in 1860, too, when they say this pencil sketch was done, right? All right, lots of it, right? Not a lot of smoke over this way. There's a little bit of smoke coming over here down by the harbor. And you got some boats in the harbor there, right? But lots of towers out here. Church towers maybe, but of course they tell us that all those church towers weren't built until the 1880s, 70s, or later, much later. But I'd like you to keep these two in mind back here, 1862, as this presentation goes forward. But, taking another look around the fort just to try to find interesting things, I found this mound was interesting. It's got like a weird antenna coming out of it. For what purpose is that? Maybe is that supposed to be a flagpole? I thought maybe this was the flagpole. That's awfully high. This flagpole is awfully high, but I guess you would want to see it from far away. But several, 100 feet high at least, right? I would think. Got some cannon lined up over here. But interesting things, interesting things can be seen, and especially that this is a star fort and these little weird, like I said, I'd like to call them outhouses, right? But to me, in my mind, outhouses at 1860s is a tight wooden shack like this, but with like a crescent moon cut into it, not like ornate, fancy looking. These are fancy looking structures, towers of some sort, you can see along barracks here, whatever we got. I don't know, very interesting. I wanted to, before I do that, I wanted to see what I could find out about Fort Marshall, right? So I did a quick little Google search, and I like that, looking for forts, the Google font today is this. I think that's rather apropos, right? So they have this, right? And this just tells us, this is another picture of it, right? But it does give some information. It says that this is from, they give it a date, July 17th even, 1862, right? But that's really all it says for us here. But it's interesting to get a complete date on that, right? And so as I was trying to find, this does the same, all right? And then I see this, and it has the number 663 for Fort Marshall in Baltimore, all right? And so when you click on it, of course, it's the same picture. But interesting that the number, for those who do the numerology, the gematria, 663, you can draw all kinds of conclusions from that, right? And so I finally came across this, and this is the 5th Regiment Armory, a historic National Guard armory located in Baltimore. And when I clicked on it, I got the wiki, and this picture came up. I was like, wow, drive by this building all the time and no idea what it was. But of course, I knew eventually it was going to come in, and because all these old buildings I'm going to get to them all eventually. The story's going to lead to them, or I'm going to see it and create a story, or find the story around the building. So this is the 5th Regiment Armory, and the basic details of it, built in 1901, they tell us, and I'm going to look at some pictures of it. Get up in on this doorway real quick. That's a huge doorway, right? And we've got am I too high here? We've got the Calvert coat of arms here. That's the knight. All right, that's the Worm Knight helmet. And they're very fancy 16th century looking people, right? But he's got a shovel! Of course he has a shovel! Because they had to dig everything. Oh my God! Find shovels everywhere in Baltimore. It's ridiculous. Like full on shovels and not like little hand spades for masonry. That's unbelievable. Right? You scroll on down, right, for the glory of Maryland. And you have, this is for World War I, all right, for the men who lost, of the 5th Regiment who died during World War I, 1917 and 1919, and they definitely have that traditional World War I sort of garb. But then this is a very, Romanesque figure here, in a flowing, like, robe or cape with a flag, That's really interesting. And so I was like, oh my God, this armory could it be on is it part of the Star Fort, right? No, that's the wrong thing. Part of the Star Fort? But it's not. I mean, I looked. So they're not the same. And if this is the city over here, then that Star Fort would be up this way, right? But it's interesting. You look at it's like weird mounds. It's a weird mound back there. I don't know. Because I could look at this stuff for hours, even grainy and not clear. That's still not what I want to be doing. So I was really like stoked to make that sort of connection, right? And so I wanted to let's read more about it, right? So it's an imposing fortress-type structure situated in Midtown Baltimore. It consists of a full basement, a first floor containing a 200-foot by 300-foot drill hall, a mezzanine or balcony, a newer second level reconstructed in 1933. And I think it's interesting. So they say that the newer the newer second level was reconstructed in 33. So that means it was already there by 33, and this was built in 1901. So between 1901 and 1933, they did put some form of second floor on there. So they're telling us, right? So the facade, interesting choice of words. Facade features buttresses, parapets, casement windows, and a crenellated roofline, giving the appearance of a medieval fortification. And it was the site of the 1912 Democratic National Convention. So I'm not going to go too deep into the because this will be for another time. But the fact that it could come to Baltimore, look who won, right? And who became president here? Was it Woodrow Wilson, who was in office when the Federal Reserve took over? Was it Woodrow Wilson? I mean, without double checking, I think it was. So hopefully I don't look stupid on that one. So a crazy, crazy coincidences there, right? And then, so they had images of, just to give you an idea, this is what it looks like inside. All right, it's a massive, massive open space in there. And it also kind of gives you a good view of the size of it. It's a big, big building. All right, here you go. But there were better pictures of the inside. Where did they go? There's my misspelling. My horrible typos. Here, it's a massive indoor space, right? So that's really kind of crazy. And so I was like, I want to locate it, because maybe I could locate where the fort was. And that was how this started. I kind of got a little off track. And so here it is in modern day Baltimore, right? This is the 5th Regiment building. And I was hoping that I could make connections to the Star Fort 5th Regiment, the 663. And that's why I want to say, they talk about the numbers. They number these numbered forts were all over Baltimore, many of them unoccupied. How many were there? Did they get up to 663 just in Baltimore before that fort? Or is that a list of army forts? 663 army forts. Even if it was 663 army forts on American soil at that time would be, it seems to me that would be an astronomical number. I don't know. How are those numbered? How are the numbers chosen? All right, so I'm going to do a little digging here, and this is how this episode is going to go. This street here is called Howard Street, all right? And this one with that curves in, this is Dolphin Street, all right? And so the Armory building, which is this square here, is at the corner of Howard and Dolphin, all right? And so I went looking. I wanted to find out what did that neighborhood look like back in the day? If they say that fort was 1862, pardon me, what did that neighborhood look like in 1862? Could that fort have been there? And where is that neighborhood? It is... where? Okay, so I got ahead of myself and I went to the wrong spot. Okay, so this is that neighborhood in 1851, according to the city plan, right? And this is Howard Street, all right? And it kind of bends here and ends at what street is this one? This is Cathedral Street, which today has the basilica and the library on it. So here you see where Howard Street goes, right? And then if you look over here, here's Dolphin Street, right? And Dolphin Street is impossible to connect with Howard Street as it goes, right? Because Howard Street connects into Cathedral, and then Dolphin here would end up meeting Cathedral at all these weird train tracks that they got going on here in 1851. Right? And this is a railroad depot here. So there's nowhere for it to meet here. And so now I did my best to identify the corner with the Belvedere Hotel, which was existing at this time here. So where Howard comes up, and it's right here. This is where the corner of Dolphin Street would be. So somewhere they either switch the names of Dolphin Street and destroy this whole several blocks here to make it meet with Howard up around in here. Let's see, because here's the Armory, right? And the Belvedere is over here, right? And that's what I was trying to line up with this, right? Here's the Belvedere, or what I think would be the Belvedere, and so that Armory is right up in here. That's the way I would put it. That's where I would put it. And so it just doesn't match up at all, right? And so I think that's sort of very interesting, to see how different that changes, at least from 1850. Now I didn't go ahead because, like I said, I was trying to find out, because based on where that Star Fort Marshall, the harbor would be, the harbor would be down in here, and or over here rather, right? So there wouldn't be a water view from it there, but it is up high. That is high on a hill, so maybe there would be. But So to continue on, so that didn't pan out at all. But so we're going to do this trip to see if we found fort number 4, right? Because Mary thought she found fort number 4. And so as we were going, I just took this picture real quick because I noticed this church tower, right? And if you weren't paying attention, they do a good job at camouflaging the towers, and everybody knows this, right? They hide them in trees and things like this, so they're not, right in our face with how much interference they're throwing in our atmosphere. um, so just to walk by or drive by, you might not even ever notice that, just like with the trees and the telephone poles and things like that. All right, so now we're coming to the corner. This is the corner that Mary thinks may have been part of fort number 4, right? And the foundation here at the very least. And now let's bring up Google Earth, and there's and we're going down this way here. Let's see if I can find it without getting too crazy. Yeah, it's gonna be right down in here. So we're starting down here. All right, and we're going to follow it to this corner here, which let's see if I can do it real quick. I'm not good at this stuff yet, so we'll do miles, all right, and we'll go from here. What's happening? See, not good at this. Why did I even try? All right, so that was a cluster. So I'm not going to try to do that. But it's a quarter of a mile from this point here to this point there is a quarter of a mile. And that's what Mary thinks may have been the original fortress wall of fort number 4. Or perhaps it could have been 2 smaller forts, because we're going to take a look at some of the pictures we took. All right, so here's the base of it, right? And I like these stairs are, that's a little unusual. You don't see the concrete swallowing up these stairs like that often, down to this end. Now, unfortunately, for whatever reason, I didn't get all the way up to take a picture of this front facade, but it does, go to a corner, and I do have one that Mary posted. Right, Mary posted this on one of her boards, and this is the front. But you could tell this is, it would have come to a corner or a point here, right? And when I go back to the map, it'll show that. I like the 7-Up sign. I like old signs, and to me it's amazing how pristine this one is, because that is vintage, and the fact that there's no bullet holes or rocks or whatever thrown in on it, graffiti, anything, just amazed me. So I thought I'd share that with you guys. I have another sign I'm going to share too. So here we go. Right from here to here. Now you can actually follow this along, all right? And so I wanted to see, now, is that stuff on the old map from 1851, all right? Because we're talking about forts that would have been there before then, these earthwork forts. And so, sure enough, here's that neighborhood right here. All right, and where are right here. Right here. There's the 1 point. All right, and it comes down. Now this point is across the street, actually. But I do want to show that, so some of this is, maybe this here would be, let's see. This is that point here. This is going into that square area that they have set up on that map. And so the road is cut through that point already. Right here. And that's the way it continues. All right, come down to the second section, cut right through, and it's cut through that way in 1851 as well. All right, so you bring that map back a little bit to give you, and so maybe some of these corners here were original standing fortress walls, right? That's what, and maybe that, and given the address of that fort number 4, it could be that that's what this is here. And I also wanted to show that those same features are in the 1822 plan. Watch, let's see if I can find them quickly enough. Here they are, right here. This is that same, this would be that same bit. All right, and this even has a better going to that point here to here. Earlier map has that same from here down to here. Pyramid cuts, triangular cuts in there in the map. Follows right along 1822. So why is this designed this way if the rest is like a grid? And what was up here, right? And this is a Stuart monument or building in here. The same Stuart family that Mary mentioned in our Hopkins video. So there's further connections to be made. I think it's interesting that the city plan matches from 1822 to today, looking for star forts or the remains of forts and coming up with those foundations. Here, this way, and then continuing up the street to this one, and this is now looking down. It's definitely possible that that these row homes were built on the remains of what were fortifications, forts, star forts, or otherwise. And this does go, and you can, although I didn't get a good picture of it, you can see straight down. It's a nice straight shot, from here. From here down to here, I don't know the more I look at these weird pointed angled streets, the more I think that those might have been the outlier of a star fort or a much bigger fortification, and that perhaps those forts that Mary is talking about. Oh no, I've done it now. Here, that Mary talks about trying to find fort number 4 could have been much, much larger and could have been really, really massive star forts, right? So, continuing on with this is across the street from that other end, right? And I just had to take a picture. Again, I like the sort of antique look of it, but at the Busy Bee, no coincidence with all the hive, hive stuff that I've been finding in the city, right? Continuing. And so as we were driving, and now I'll cut back to Google Earth and see if I can do this without problem. We were driving, wrapping up our little search for fort number 4, and we were driving along, and I'm going to hopefully find it. Yes. So we're driving along this way, right? And we get past this. This is an intersection here. And again, you don't get a good sense of it here, but now we're going downhill. This is kind of high ground up here, right? We're going down a hill. I guess you get a little sense of it. And you're going down a hill here, and as we drove past, I don't know if anybody has ever read Christine or seen the movie, but when he drives by Christine for the first time, he goes, "Turn around! Did you see her? Did you see her?" And that's what I was like, "Mary, did you see that wall? We got to turn around and look at that wall." She's like, "What wall?" So turn around, and we come up on it, and this is a wall here, right? And I did measure this. It's 300 feet, approximately 300-foot wall, right? And we're gonna get up in on it with the photos. Right? Yep, starting here. All right, and it's really hard to tell here. I have another one I think coming at the end, slightly different angle. This is rounded here, like a point, or not like a point, but like those corner houses and stuff. Like a fortification might be rounded at a point to have a parapet or a tower there. Definitely rounded at the base, right? And it goes for, like I said, some 300 feet. And you can see they broke it apart here at one point to create this walkway down into the park, right? I'm just going to kind of cruise along through these because I did do a little video that I may add in. This will give you a little perspective as to height. This is a basketball hoop, right? I don't know what regulation height is, 12 to 15 feet off the ground, I think, right? So if this is anywhere near regulation, we're going up much higher than that even. And the street level for this street is probably somewhere up above this plane here, right? So this had to be dug out and fortified for some reason or other. But what's there? When we look at Google Earth, I mean, there's nothing here. There's a little park here. So maybe this park, as it stands today, was once part of a fort. Because this is just row homes here. So this little area is definitely dug out lower than this, right? And so I thought that was really interesting. And then I did do a little movie, but I don't know. We'll see how I feel about putting that in. It might be a little too long. I do the walk. Yeah, and here it is. You get a better sense here that this was rounded out, and then this row is built over it. Down here. Oh, come on. Ugh, hates me. Stop moving. Because it's not going to let me get the angle that I want on it. But yeah, the foundation of this starts, is built over the row home is built over the foundation of this rounded wall. So, again, more evidence of a possible really old fort, fallen out of history, could be the remnants of a star fort. You just don't know. And so, as we went along, I'm going to close this out by talking about this church. And now this church is, again, one of those buildings that has drawn my attention and fascinated me since I moved to Baltimore. And no matter which address, I've only had 2 addresses in Baltimore. No matter which address, when we come from certain areas of the city, we have to go the same way. And I always saw this view. And it always brought a daydream is the wrong word for it, but I have some form of, I guess I'll just call it a daydream because I can't think of a better one. But, I hear a sound when I see this image, and especially when I'm out, in the wild and I come across it, going down this street. Something really resonates with me in this image. And so, when we were out and about, I realized that the neighborhood we were in, and Mary's going to kill me when she sees how close it was, to where we were, let's see if I can find. This is where I get in trouble when I try to move away and do fun things like this. um, here's our point, right? Here's what we think is number 4, right? And then, wait a minute, where did it go? Here it is. All right, and here's the church that we're gonna come up on. So right there, Mary, look, it's just 2 blocks away. Yeah, we ended up driving away, and I had to make her turn around because I thought of the idea. We drove by, and I was like, you know what? I never looked at that church. Let's go take a closer look. And so that's what we did. And like I said, I always had connection to that skyline, and I look for it everywhere. And so when we parked, this is the first thing in the side of the church that I saw. Look at that doorway underneath. And so here I am we're just gonna focus a little bit on the side, right? And these windows cut deep into the sidewalk, and you can actually get a good sense of the pitch here as well, right? I'm going up, and so I'm gonna cut it here, and then you know what? I'm not gonna. I'll cut the movie in at the end, but I'm not gonna splice it in. I don't do a good job focus. I miss it on these windows here. The end windows, I don't know if I get a good shot of it. Even in the movie, I don't. How deep underground those are, right? And just to show you, when I standing on the ground here, this is taller than me. The top line here, or just a little bit, but it is, when I'm standing on the ground flat, this is a little bit taller than I am. All right, and so when we go down the side, these windows get deeper and deeper, to almost like they're like 4 feet submerged. Whereas at the first window here, like the below level is like 2 feet, 2.5 feet, something like that. All right, and there are the towers. This is an abandoned church. I could find no real information on it and a quick search at all. I could find it was occupied in the early 2010s, like 2011, but that corporation, that Faith Ministries or whatever it was, went bankrupt. Oh, here's a good angle of it. I mean, this gets really deep, but over here is really full person height. I want to say it was taller than me. That's my recollection of it. Here's the front, right? And, it's too bad the stained glass is all gone and everything. But I did focus in on the doorway a little bit, and what I've been noticing, and Mary pointed this out to me when we were there, she said, did you see that those, at the tops of these columns, they're open? And so I took a bunch of pictures of that, and it made me sort of think about the way these columns are designed and the way the columns are designed on these churches. And when I made the connection with the police station and the pipes on the sides connecting to the faces that have openings in them. And I think maybe inside here, as you get up in on it, there could be this could be casing around pipes. And if these are open, this could be a functioning machine today. Like whatever resonance this church creates could be emanating, somehow from these openings. These could be pipes. I don't know. I mean, there's no limit to the possibilities, in this line of speculation with what these churches could have been used for. All right, and I just want to showcase again how high this entranceway is off the ground. And one of the reasons these churches don't last is because little old ladies who want to go to church can't get up these steps. This was steep, to get up there. No doubt about it. Yes, it was funny. One of the only things I could find, this Praise Cathedral, these Praise Ministries, they went bankrupt and had to forfeit there. Ooh, there's the pattern. Catch it? Nice. Catching it a little bit there. They had to foreclose on the church. They couldn't keep it. All right, look how high the stairs are off that. That's a full-size person there. The cross up top has these initials, which I have not investigated yet. But anyway, just a cool way to wind. You look at the side of the building, you can just see how long it's been abandoned. These roots, these vines go all the way up. And I'm going to close it out with the back end of it. This is a nice old doorway of the building next door. This was maybe was the rectory at one time. Look at the size of this doorway. These doors are tall to begin with. I would venture that this is 8 feet or more easily. 8 feet minimal. I do focus in a little bit on the openings there. Because like I said, again, it's not hard for me to imagine this molded over pipe. They say this was built in 1902, right? And here's the backside of it, right? I just wanted to look at this door here, right? How high that would have been off the ground at one point, all right? And this tree. Look at this tree growing out from under this church. I mean, how long has this tree been growing out of there? And no one cared. You think it would have been easy to cut out as a sapling or something. Anyway, I thought that was a fun way to wrap up our expedition. Those are the videos that I'm not going to show. Wrap up the expedition to find Fort Number 4 and the little history of the Fort Marshall and the 5th Regiment Armory. So, there's always things to explore and find and avenues of research that need to be walked down. Pardon me. And so I hope you had fun with this one. I had a blast with it. And so please, everybody love everybody, and please take care of yourselves and each other. And until the next one, cheers, guys.